Welcome to Front Porch Friday. Have I got a great question today in our Ask Laurie series. And actually, it didn't come from one of you. It came from my friend and priority staff member, Shanda Stiles. And this is Shanda's question. She sees, and we all see this in Matthew chapter 7, where Jesus says, "Don't judge lest you be judged." And she said, "Laurie, are we not allowed to make judgments? Are Christians not allowed to make judgments?" This is something Shannon and I have talked about on several occasions, and I hope today to answer that question, not only for Shannon, but for many of you, because you know what? In the world today, you and I are often accused of being judgmental. And this is the passage they quoted us, isn't it? They say, "Well, judge not lest you be judged." Isn't that what Jesus said? Well, let's look at that passage today, and I'm going to give you 7 things that you can know about making judgments as a Christian. First and foremost, number 1, in this case, when Jesus says, "Judge not lest you be judged," he is referring to rash, unkind, unjust, critical, negative, tearing down other people, fault-finding kind of stuff. Judging people's motives and their hearts, things that we cannot see. We are not allowed to ever do that. We're not ever allowed to do that even in our own mind mentally, but we are certainly not allowed to do it and then to verbalize it and to air it before other people. So, number 1, you and I are not allowed to make rash, unjust, unkind, critical judgments about anyone, okay? About anyone. Number 2, we are, however, allowed to make judgments based on discernment and wisdom, okay? We are to make decisions and judgments based on wisdom and discernment. We, for instance, as parents, we judge our children. We say, we judge the programs they watch. We say, you can't watch that. It wouldn't be wise for a child to watch everything on TV today. We make judgments based on wisdom and discernment. We as adults make decisions based on wisdom all the time. We say, you know what? I don't think it would be wise for me to do thus and such, or would be wise for me to be that person's friend, or that it would be wise for me to spend my money this way, okay? We're making judgments. Now, somebody else may spend their money that way, and we're not allowed to judge them either, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. So we are allowed to make judgments based on wisdom and discernment, and certainly if you sit on any jury in the United States, you are going to be asked to make a judgment, and that is going to be based on wisdom and discernment. So this is something that we are allowed to make decisions and to make judgments based upon wisdom and discernment. But thirdly, before we make any kind of judgment, we must first judge ourselves. Jesus says in Matthew 7, "How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye, the sin out of your eye, or the sin out of your life, and behold, a log is in your own eye? You hypocrite,' he says, 'first take the log out of your own eye, then you'll see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye.'" And so he is saying, before you ever go to anybody else, before you ever judge anybody else, first thing you've got to do is you have got to turn that finger back this way, and you've got to say, "Lord, show me, examine me. Lord, look at my heart and my life and show me if there's anything, any motive, any hidden sin that I can't see, and show me, Lord, and purify me." So we must first, before we ever pass judgment on anybody, judge ourselves. Fourthly, we can judge outward actions and attitudes, okay, things that we can see and hear, but we cannot judge. We are prohibited from judging inward motives. Only God can see the heart of another person. You and I are not God, are we? And sometimes we see stuff and we say, "Well, that's because she's this and this and that," or "They said that because this and this and this," and we attribute motives to that person and why they are behaving or saying or acting some way. And girls, that's sin. We can't do that. We're not allowed to do that. We must, number 5, though, judge sin within the church. In Matthew 18:15, Jesus said, if you see your brothers in sin, you're to go to him and you're to encourage him to repent and to be restored, okay? And then it says, if he doesn't, then it gives him steps to do. And eventually says if he continues in sin, you're to bring that brother before the church so that the church can pass judgment on him, all right? We're to judge within the church one another. And when we see sin in another believer's life, you and I have every right to go to them first in private, okay? And then follow that procedure there in Matthew 18. That's not being judgmental. It's what Paul did in 1 Corinthians 5 when he called out the church in Corinth, and he said, you are tolerating immorality in your own church. You need to judge it. There was a man in their church that was involved in an incestuous relationship. And Paul said, you must cast that man out. You have allowed this to take place within the body, and it's not right. But number 6, where there's no direct biblical prohibition against something, okay, we are not to judge our fellow believers, okay? When the Bible has nothing specific to say about a matter, okay, then you and I are not allowed to judge somebody. For instance, a lady wrote a few days ago to Ask Laurie, and she said, is it okay for Christians to homeschool? Well, is homeschooling the Bible? No, there's really not anything that says about homeschooling the Bible. Is there anything about public school or Christian school? Listen, these are things that girls, a lot of times we judge others about. We say, I can't believe she's doing this. She's letting her child go here, or she's keeping her child at it from being salt and light in the world, and she's homeschooling. Girls, when there's no direct biblical prohibition about matters, you and I are not allowed to judge even other believers at all, because that's between them and the Lord, okay? So where there's no direct biblical prohibition, we're not allowed to judge fellow Christians. And then finally, number 7, within the world, when the world opposes God's authority, we must stand with God, okay? We must stand with God. And listen, we will be criticized. We will be criticized. Right now, Chick-fil-A, the leader there has taken, has let people know that he's standing with God about traditional marriage and the traditional definition of marriage, a man and a woman. And it is just, all hell is breaking loose against him. But he's going to stand with the Lord. And you and I have to do that too. Okay? And you know what they're going to do? They're going to do to us exactly what they are doing to Chick-fil-A. They're going to call us intolerant. They're going to call us judgmental. They're going to quote Matthew 7 at us, okay? But girls, we've got to stand with God. That is not being judgmental, and we do it by upholding His truth, and we do it with a sweet attitude too, okay? With a righteous attitude, but not a self-righteous attitude. We do it by just stating the truth. Well, girls, that was a tough question for me to answer, but I hope that some of you maybe have gained some insights about this little passage that so often we hear, and we hear it taken out of context. Shanda, thanks for asking it, okay? And girl, if you have a question for me, you can still post it here on the blog or on Facebook, or you can email your question to me at priority@priorityministries.com. Thanks so much for sitting on the porch with me. I'll see you next week right here on Front Porch Friday. Bye, girl.